Welcome. This service is provided by freeconferencecall.com. Please enter. If you are the host, press star now. Otherwise, please enter your PIN followed by the pound. Thank you. There are 5 participants in the conference. Please announce yourself.
Kote.
Hello, everyone. This is Marshall Swilley from Colorado, your host. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well.
Good. That sounds like Marshall Cote.
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you guys for showing up on the call. We're a little bit early, so we're not going to start just yet. I'm going to give people a chance to join us, and we will bring Ken Dost on. Marshall Cote, do you have a handle on the callers coming in? Can you see them? Are you running the board?
No, I'm not doing that tonight. I did put a text message out to John Schubert, and I did speak to Marshall Parks tonight, and they're working on their end trying to get that together.
Okay. Because it sounds like there's quite a few people coming on the call tonight. And
There should be.
Yeah, I think so. When Ken Dost comes on, he said he'll be about 5 minutes late. I was just wondering if anybody can alert me besides him, based on his phone number. But I guess not, because nobody's running the board.
Not right now. I haven't heard back from John. I'm waiting.
Okay.
I'm hoping he's gonna show up. He was doing something with his family today. I'm not sure if he's back from that yet or not.
Oh yeah, that's right. Some people are probably going to be busy because of the holidays. So to me, it's just another day. It's the same fight, another day. It really isn't. I don't put any weight into holidays anymore. I appreciate that it gives people an opportunity to take a break from work and spend that time with their family. Of course, my family has been kidnapped by the de facto, so I don't really have to worry about holiday jargon. So anyway, we can go ahead and start the call because I think it's time. Let me just double check. It's 7:01, and maybe we can start with a little bit of a preface on. Do you have any ideas, Marshall Cote, as to something that we can throw in here that might be of interest to everybody?
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to hear what Ken has to say. I know he always has some new rabbit hole that he's run down and found something groundbreaking. But apparently now he seems that he's very close to sort of a solution for us on this. I follow a lot of things. I'm actually following a lot of things right now, so it's really tough for me to get into details about any of it because I'm kind of scattered with all this.
Boy, that's for sure. When you're studying this stuff on exiting Babylon and correcting your status, we do go through some deep deep comprehensions of many things, and there's so many good teachers out there. I try and study most all of them so that I can find the pearls or the grains along the way that are the truth and how people are being successful in obtaining freedom from So anyway, there are many. Ken Cousins is another one. And, of course, I sent out the video of the birth certificate in the agency, and that one is absolutely left me stunned, as I believe it did many of us.
It was very, very interesting. I mean, just a whole different way of looking at it. So my mind has really been in that lately because I've listened to that now twice. I have about 6 pages of notes, and now I want to listen to it again while I'm reading my notes so I can kind of get into the whole thing a little bit more. And also, I think having Ken W. on one night, if we can get hold of him, I think that'd be really cool too. I mean, we should consider that.
And I need help reaching some of these people because there's so many good people out there that we can learn from. It would be nice to bring on a variety of warriors that have been out there fighting the good fight. My guess is that Ken Dost may be on right now. Ken, are you out there yet? No, he said he was going to be about 5 minutes late, so we're a little bit early. We'll give him some more time. There is an incredible amount of information out there. And the one thing that is in common, that I find that is in common, is that it always seems to tie back to the birth certificate and the fictional character. So it seems to me like we have to deal with that. You can't run from it.
Well, we really got to get clarity on exactly, what it is. I mean, we were just talking about, Ken W.'s presentation on agency and the birth certificate and stuff like that, and that is a completely different way of looking at it than I've learned. But it seems to really make a lot of sense.
Right. It does.
And then somebody put forth today, I was reading. It may have been someone speaking about that, but it was. There's a lot of different avenues we have to look at this because it's been going on for so long and it's been so screwed around and so changed and so reinterpreted and everything else that I don't think any one of them has the answer. I think it's going to be, like I've told people before, and I've been at this game for a pretty long time. I think what it's going to require a lot of things. It's going to there's going to be a whole bunch of steps to this. There's going to be some things that are going to clearly plant your feet on the ground, on the land, and then there's going to be other things that are going to help to bolster your force field, if you will, against them attacking you. But I don't think it's any one thing. I think there's going to be a lot of things that we have to do. People talked about the DD-12 or the DD-11 or whatever the hell it was, the 5-star passport. Yeah, that ain't going to do it. I mean, there isn't one thing that they are going to give you that's going to do it.
Right.
It's something that you have to establish it yourself. Like I know a lot of people know about Lotus Justice.
Yes.
She's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant, and I spoke with her for hours on the phone, and she is just. She's so brilliant, it's really tough to understand a lot of times, and I've spoken with her enough now to understand what she's talking about. So I turn on my ears and I turn off my mouth whenever I have a chance to speak with her, for her to speak to me, actually, because there's so much that she speaks, and every word you have to kind of hold on to and you have to think about, And if you think about it, we are the land. We are the embodiment of Christ. We are resurrected. We are all these things that we think that we have to go and get. We already have it. Just it's a matter of practicing it, being it, and expressing it. So those are the things that we have difficulty with.
Well, and that's why we're doing these calls, so that we can bring as much out into the open as possible from those that are that have devoted themselves, like Ken Dost, to unraveling these mysteries of how we got into this mess and how do we get out. So,
you know what? You were literally born into it, and your parents were negligent the moment you were born because they signed you away as abandoned property.
Absolutely.
So,
it is.
That much we know. So how do we reclaim ourselves? That's the thing.
Well, that's what we're working
like
on.
I said,
How do we alleviate the pressure of the constant threat, that we're not supposed to be under, and then find remedy. And that's really what this is all about is, we are dealing with corruption, and we have duties and responsibility when faced with these kinds of things, just as human beings or living beings, to stop the insanity of it all. However, we have to, and for many of us, that has taken a great toll on us as we have maneuvered through and learned about contracts and learned about consent and learned about the founding documents that formed the country into what it is, or the world into what it is, which is a wide variety of things. And at this time, I'd like to find out if Ken Dost is on the line. Ken, I'm sorry, we don't have anyone running the board. So if you're there and you can let me know that you're there, I'd like to give you an introduction.
Here he is. I'm here.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, we have a special treat tonight with Ken Dost, who has been at this for so many years. He has uncovered incredible things that all of us need to know about. It helps us learn how the crimes have been perpetrated against us, or how these assaults have been perpetrated against us, and what we can do about it. And so he's incredibly self-studied in this arena and knows a great deal about the copyright and patenting procedures that are used to amass much wealth that unfortunately is not trickling to us. And he's just done so much to bring the truth forward. And with that, I would like to open up the floor for Ken Dost, and I believe he has a guest that's also coming on. And Ken, if you could...
I don't know if he is or not. I couldn't get a hold of him, so we'll see if John O comes on. This will be, I think, a Utah number. And if you want, post it to my Facebook page, because I know there's a lot of other people that were interested in hearing this call as well, if you could, please.
I did post it on there for you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Hello, thanks for having me on. Good talking to you again. Yeah, since we last talked, a lot of developments.
Well, we're so anxious to hear since last you were on. So
we got a lot of developments here. I think we're 2 steps from heaven, if not closer. And I mean that sincerely too. This is all administrative. Things since we've last talked, I've gone through and just put more pieces together on this thing. Put pieces that those stragglers that were out there. Things that there's one thing that I came across 9 years ago when I first started this that I haven't looked at in 9 years, and yesterday it was like, oh shit, now I know where that is. So I pulled something from 9 years ago to fit right in with what we're talking about and where we're at with these things. And we got so much bloody evidence against these guys. It's ridiculous. It's a matter of pursuing it in the right venues, or the right agency, I should say, and in the proper manner, which is all administrative. And what I came across this week, which totally blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind, was what are all the tax shelter and tax credit filings that exist, that they're taking on our election to allow them to elect us. They have us electing to give up our tax credits. They have us electing to give up our status for 2-year stints at a time so that they can send us overseas and all kinds of stuff they've got us electing for. So I think that, first and foremost, I think when people talk about revocation of election, I think people have a misunderstanding of revocation of election really is, and I did too, as a matter of fact. It has nothing to do with voting for Clinton or Trump. It has to do with their taxes and what they're elected, what kind of elections you are picking for your status. And what we've done is we've given that, well, we haven't given up to them, they've taken it from us. Well, anyhow, I got a, I think I mentioned this, I think I mentioned this to you, you and I talked separately. So I don't think we talked about this when I was last on the call. I put papers out to Treasury, to Fiscal Services, to IRS, to SIGTARP, to the Office of the Inspector General of the Federal Home Loan Bank, and so I got a lot of things out there right now. And I got a letter back from the IRS from a package that I had sent out, or from packages I had sent out back in February. which were trust documents and the like, and declarations and not declarations of life, right? Just trust documents and common law copyright, things of that nature. And so there was about a month between that package and this package I sent out to Fiscal Services, which does contain the declarations of life and status and terminations of license and so on and so forth. Anyway, I got a letter from the IRS, and they were addressing this February 27th package, and they said, well, we're not going to, it was very threatening, actually, at first, until it sunk in. But it was, they said, well, we're going to stop responding to your comments and anything you send us if you continue to send us frivolous material, frivolous things. And you're a tax protester, and you haven't filed taxes in so long, and so on and so forth. You could be arrested for this, and then they put a nice little cute circle around the back saying about the sovereign citizen movement, and the private trust and how the private trust is a fallacy, and the birth certificate, all that stuff's a fallacy, which is all just very laughable, of course. But then they mentioned they had a chart of assessments there, and then this following page, it said, oh, by the way, when you respond to us, do a FOIA and do a Freedom of Information Act and do it to Treasury, and as a matter of fact, Treasury addressed it to send it to you when you're ready to go with it. But basically, I was pissed off when I first read this. I said, sons of bitches. But as I thought about it for a couple of days, I thought, wait a second here. They just gave us the golden nugget. The golden nugget is this. First of all, have your taxes up to date. It doesn't matter how correct they are or whatever. Just have them up to date, because this way they can do a proper assessment and balance in the books. Now, the FOIA, the purpose of the FOIA is to open up the accounts now and open up the other side of the IRS while those tax shelters are, so that we can go ahead and access those accounts over in Treasury, so they can kind of divert or revest. I don't know, revest is probably the wrong word in this case, to identify themselves, so to speak. And when that hit me, I thought, holy shit, they gave us the nugget, and that makes perfect sense, because what they've done here, and it does make sense to have your filings up to date, because they do have to have something to balance the books against to do proper assessments. So I took that, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do a FOIA here. So I was going to make it a simple FOIA. I thought, no, this has got to be kind of a detailed FOIA, because I want to make sure that, and the IRS says, in their FOIA request, make sure that you point to particular documents you want to see, or to particular filings you want to see. And, I didn't want to be general and vague, but I'll just figure out, let me just see what other filings are out there that I can kind of do a FOIA on. 67 pages. 67 pages of 8.5 by 11 single-spaced other filings that are out there that exist in the IRS, which are mostly all tax shelters and tax credits and different kinds of elections that all pertain to us and corporations, and how they're disregarding corporations and recharacterizing corporations, and how they're doing all these things with us, right? And I thought, holy crap, this is beautiful, because it's evidence that we are indeed do have. Now, I don't want to say birth accounts, because they really aren't birth trust accounts. It's not really what they are. They're just investment accounts, and they're investments that have grown, or they're being made off of our stolen identity, off of our common law copyright, off our name, which we'll get to in a little bit. Get in a little bit more detail about that in a little bit. But the point of it is the evidence is there for us everywhere. All we got to do is properly address it and start addressing these things. And I think that we're going to have these people on the run, because there's no way they can hide from these things. If you read, and I don't have any of them right in front of me at the moment, but one of the circulars, or one of the filings, has to do with passive investments and has to do with participations. And it clearly states in there that that it identifies knowing participants and unknowing participants. Well, what do you think we are? Take a guess. Anybody?
We are your unknowing participants.
Thank you. Yes, we're your unknowing participants. And it clearly states in there to wipe everything out and start again, a do-over, by doing statements and declarations. It tells us right there what to do, how to reverse that. And what's going on here is they have a system in place where they've stolen our identity, And they have, and when we talk about derivatives, we got to expand that a little bit. We got to expand what we mean by derivatives, and we've got to, I guess, more focus the conversation, focus the idea of what we're talking about when we talk about derivatives. A lot of times we refer to derivatives as derivative spellings, and various spellings are names. That's only a part of it. A derivative can be any modification to any copyright that's hooked back to the original intent of that document. So in other words, they're turning us into a cow, so to speak, but it still sits back to my name, and that's really what they're doing. They've turned us into. I had to laugh at one of them. Because, huh?
We are cash cows for them.
Well, actually, we're gas guzzlers. Actually, the people who are in foreclosure are gas guzzlers.
Are what?
We're gas guzzlers. Gas guzzlers.
Oh, yeah, we're gas guzzlers, right.
Gas guzzlers. They're running us through these derivative-type investments and derivative-type recharacterizations and conversions. So they're taking our identity and they're taking derivatives to a whole other level because they're recharacterizing us and putting us through as biofuels. They're putting us through as gas guzzlers. They're even putting us through fish hatcheries. And these are all money-making schemes that they're making money on, but it's made off of our identity, to which so you've got a system of checks and balances that is functioning on excise taxes. So they're balancing excise taxes and taking all the tax credits that rightfully belong to us, because we're the ones that we're the at-risk party. We're the unknowing participant that's a passive investor. And what we've done is we've elected to give everything to them. So not only have they mismanaged everything, they've stolen everything. Now, these things we can illustrate. We can show these things, and we can watch their mouths drop to the floor because they're not going to be able to defend these things. Because now what you've got, now you go in, and now the Treasury's job, now you remember there's Department of Treasury and there's Treasury Department. There's IRS and there's Internal Revenue Service. Totally different things. They're totally different. But when it gets down to, I might get mixed up here. I think it's Treasury Department. Their obligation is to balance the finances of the government, of the people. And so Treasury Department, it might be Department of Treasury. I might have it backwards. One of them is responsible for giving us remedy, because now we're come forward as our just the living man, and making claim, going back to the 1790 Copyright Act, making claim to the maps, periodicals, surveys, so on and so forth that's out there. And we're going further with it and saying, hey, oh, by the way, I never gave you permission by express consent, by participation, by subscription, by any way whatsoever, that to take my identity and convert it into all kinds of derivatives to which I don't get any return on. So you see where this is going? You understand where this is going? It's getting simpler.
I completely see it.
Does everybody else see where this is going? Are there any questions, comments?
Give them all a minute, okay? They're probably in stun mode from everything that you just said.
It is stunning, because the more it just develops, the easier this really does become. This is going to become, and I see what's going to happen here. This is going to become, it's a huge issue we're dealing with here. Understand what they did. They did what they've done here, and we're going to use the MERS agreement because that's the watermark of all of this. Is they have lured us into executing a work for hire, copyrighted work for hire, which is the Fannie and Freddie standard uniform instrument, which is those mortgage loans, but it's a work for hire. There never was a mortgage loan. It's a leaseback transaction, so there's no completed transaction. And so therefore it's a work in progress. And the people that are attending to it and servicing it are contractors, and those contractors are associated under e-government to administer these things. And that e-government are information databases like CoreLogic and First American Title. So this is a work for hire that is continuing its life cycle, and it's continuing. There's no end to it until they kill us off. That's real important to understand now, because now you have a transaction here that wasn't consummated in any way, shape, or form. That's one problem. And the second problem is this merged nations bank agreement, which has nothing to do with a real property transaction at all. It has to do with a licensing of your identity, which is what we unknowingly and without representation, without disclosure, and as actually by omission from any kind of representation in the merge loan docs of MERS being a trademark, we unknowingly gave them complete right, title, and interest and full licensing rights to our name and our identity. So what they've done is they've taken that name, they've taken that identity as unregistered copyright, unregistered trademark, an unregistered trade name, which are private and protected, and they put them into pools of trademark financial goods. And those trademark financial goods have been given a value and bought and sold and traded and so on and so forth. But it's all based on information. So what they've done, so all these patents, like a Goldman Sachs patent, I think one offhand, they've got many. But Goldman Sachs has a lot of bond patents and well, they do a lot of things, but yeah, they do a lot of things. It's when they run us through these patents are it's modeled on a pool of people, a pool of unregistered copyrights, essentially, that are run through a financial scenario, or run through a financial scheme, or run through a legal collection or foreclosure scheme. And so who's the subject of these patents? We are. We're the subject of those patents. So, I mean, what the common basis for it is, well, wait a second here. If you're using my identity, which is private to me, why are you taking benefit for using my identity in your money making schemes? Because take for instance an estate or a trust, for an heirs and beneficiary trust, a family trust. I mean, take that into account for a minute. Why do you, and what gives you the right to take my identity and kill me off in one of these investments so that you can reap all the benefits and steal my estate? No, that's not going to work here. But see, that's what they're doing here. We have value and ascertainable value and marketable value that they're making money off of and off these investments, and we're the subject of those. So the question is now, it's like, okay, well, wait a second here. I never get so I'm going to rescind, revoke. Let's see, what is it? Rescind, revoke, cancel, extinguish. It's one other one. Rescind, revoke, cancel, extinguish. I forgot what the other one is. There's one other one. All elections of the merged nations bank agreement, because I didn't elect to give you licensing rights to my name. I didn't even elect to do anything with copyright because I thought this was a real property transaction. I had no idea that this was an identity theft scheme, but that's what they did. So I mean, what we have here is now you lay all these facts out on the table, and we're in pretty good shape. We've got a good line of a good attack line here to go on administratively, and I don't know how they could possibly deny anything. They can't. So you've got all these people out there that are doing these private trusts and doing all these bond programs and stuff. Yeah, it's risky. Those things are risky, and in some cases get people thrown in jail, and in most cases, they work for some people and don't work for other people. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why that actually is that way. People say, well, they ignored me. I haven't heard back from them. But it does depend. I mean, it's subjective to some degree. It's subjective to Treasury's decision, and what they're looking at is the quality of the person, or they're looking at, and that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to your credibility. So one of the things that we have a problem with in going that approach, I think, is that they don't understand. I really don't believe that Treasury has a freaking clue how the depth of this frauds are. I know that they're aware that there is identity theft occurring and whatnot, but I don't think they have any clue to the depth that it actually goes. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this shakes out. But The point being with all this stuff is it's not the courts. It's not the courts. And when we take it administrative, and everything is administrative. I read a couple of very interesting legal reviews that were pretty current, actually. One was 2015 of Virginia Law Review of all things, and it talks about the Supreme Court and the judicial issues behind the living man and the bloodline. So the all caps name and Just Soleil, and Just Soleil is on the soil, and everybody keeps referring to well, you're the living man, put yourself back on the soil. Well, you know what? This article is saying the Supreme Court very much recognizes that the bloodline, which is San Janagrius or something, and Just Soleil, which is on the soil, are very much alive today. So I'm thinking, wait a second, why are we using these terms? I mean, why aren't we putting these in there? Because that's exactly what we want to do. We want to be on the soil. So the Supreme Court recognizes these things. However, the Supreme Court or the judicial system, they don't want to deal with this stuff. They don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Even if they could, they don't want to touch it. And they can't really, because at the state level, obviously, they can only do it in Article 3, and that's it. But they don't want to touch this because it's such a volatile issue. It's an issue that really that they can't win. It's a big secret issue here about birthrights and things of that nature. But it goes deeper than that. It goes much deeper than that, because when you understand that this is a checks and balances system as a business and as this commerce, and when you understand that you actually do have value, I mean, and your value is, as I described, it's being run through as grantors to these innumerable number of patents out there. We have a very strong ascertainable value that is offset through DTC, which is the private side of things. So you've got this. You've got an argument that if the judicial system even took it up, would be they don't want to touch it, and they also explain that, hey, this is legislative. This is legislative decisions. These are decisions made by legislature, and as such are administrative processes. These things all go administratively, and so that's what we need to do. Take these administratively, and as I'm going through these things and opening up these channels more. Well, clearly the one agency that we have to go through, the hub of this, is Treasury. The Treasuries, they're the ones that give us remedy. They're the only ones that can really give us remedy. And we want them to give us remedy. They're there to protect us. And they're there to protect us. We've got a business deal essentially with them, going back again, the 1790 Copyright Act. They get part of our copyright. Hey, that's fine with me. I don't care. That sounds good. As long as I get these vultures off of me and have you protect me, that's fantastic. So Treasury is unquestionably the hub by which we have to go through. But there's a lot of other entities here that we can start putting in, and we could really put pressure on these people to really, in the event that we don't get the responses that we should be getting or definitely are entitled to, we can pressure these guys from all sorts, from all angles now, through SEC, through IRS, through. I mean, it's just, it's incredible. It's really incredible, and it's exciting because we don't have to. We don't have to play the poor bedraggled debtor anymore, the poor me, or we don't have to be foreseen as that. And I think once we start making these claims and getting these claims in and getting these into the system, and more importantly, once we get into the public venue, then I think you're going to see I think you're going to see this thing take off like a firecracker, more like a nuclear bomb. These are really exciting times. So
that is incredible, Ken. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Is there a place that we can review documents that you have discovered and have brought forward?
Well, that's at the website, and that's what we're trying to. That's why I want to get John in here to talk about that. I had to put aside working on anything on the website because I wanted to get some more papers and get some more documents in the Treasury and kind of finalize these things. So I had to put it on hold for about a week and a half, and that had to do with the IRS and these FOIAs and everything. So that will be forthcoming. Absolutely, that stuff's going to be forthcoming. There's a lot of documents to go through, and to grasp an understanding of this. But you know, the basic understanding.
What you give people out there who know nothing about status correction or any of the, how any of this stuff works, but, who are interested in learning, can you give them like 3 first steps of things that they can do to correct their status and gain standing, or, to be able to move in the right
I think you're fighting this thing from a foreclosure point of view. And most people have MERS. I mean, I have just very, very few people, maybe one out of 100, that MERS is not contained in their transaction. I would suggest really the first thing you got to understand is what your position. You got to understand the difference between the all caps and your living man, living woman. And I hate using those terms. I can't stand using those terms because it's not really accurate to the times. Yes, we are a living man, we are a living woman, and our all caps name is a fiction. It's not a straw man. We got to stop using the word straw man because it's just a negative term that idiots have gone and done some stupid things with, and it ended up in jail, and of course everybody jumps on that, so it's got negative connotations to it. And it's not really a proper word anyhow for the modern times and how it's being used. It's more of a derivative. Your all caps name is a derivative fiction. It's a business entity. It's a line of business. I think is how people. I guess so what you have to do is, if you're approaching this from and you're just walking right into this thing and totally, bedraggled by what's in front of you and what you've been fighting. The first thing you have to do is you have to kind of separate out what's real and what's true. And since nothing is real and true, just kind of throw out everything that you thought you knew, because it's all lies. It's all deception. And start focusing in on the issues at hand, as far as where your position on the land is, what your all caps name, what that really represents, and learn about copyrights and understand what a copyright is, and understand that that's your name, that's your identity, and there's a separation between Kenneth William Dost lowercase and Kenneth William Dost all caps. And I think the biggest thing to really understand, if you're approaching this from a newly approaching this, is understand that there's a bar between your lowercase and your all caps. There's a bar between, and I don't know if many people realize that. I think a lot of people do, but they don't understand the importance of it. And that's the power of attorney. And that bar between is the bar, the attorneys that are between it. So what you have is you've got an intermediary between our all caps name and us, and that intermediary is making decisions for you that you would not ordinarily make if you were given all the facts. And so I think that's where you kind of got to begin. You got to begin with at the very basics and with identity. And understand that there's 3 identities there. There's the lowercase, which the living person, and then there's the all caps, and then there's that bar between, the intermediary, and that's the person, that's your power of attorney, and that's the person that has stepped into the shoes of your principal, and they're making decisions for you that you presumably gave them. So what it is, it's a drastic and a blatant abuse of power of attorney. Obviously, I think that's probably the first place to start. Because once you identify that, it starts to answer a lot of questions. For instance, I think everybody's done a REST request here. And
wait, before I wanted to ask a question about that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Here, when you're saying the power of attorney and all of that, I completely am following you myself. I don't know about anybody else, but are you saying that one of the first things is definitely comprehending the difference between the all capital letter name and the lowercase name and the bar that stands between them, right? Because the bar actually has the power of attorney, and by becoming the attorney in fact.
Right. What you want to do is you want to remove that bar that stands between. You want to fire all powers of attorney. You want to get rid of them, and you want to put, but you don't want to leave it naked, though. You can't leave it naked because those sneaky bastards will sneak right back in, because that's what they do. So you got to fill the position there, and fill the position with yourself, as the attorney, as your own attorney, in fact. So what you have is Kenneth William Dost, lowercase, or Kenneth William Dost, lowercase, my living man, and then you've got Dost, Kenneth William, or Kenneth W. That's my intermediary. That's the power of attorney. And then you got my all caps name, which is Kenneth William Dost, all caps. So it's really identifying the placement of names and what they mean. Now, of course,
the lowercase is the.
Pardon me?
You're saying the upper and lower case is the intermediary?
No, I said no. Dost, Kenneth William, Dost, Kenneth William.
Okay.
That's the intermediary party, or Kenneth W. That's the intermediary party. The power of attorney is acting through my last name first, and that's what the power of attorney is acting. So what you've got to do is you got to get rid of that bar between, and you got to put yourself in there as the attorney in fact. And then what you do at that point in time. Now what I do is I represent. I go in as my power of attorney, representing the interest of Kenneth William Dost, living man, which is my trust estate, my assets, my common law copyright, which is hove in due course. Let's see what else. See that all caps name. We like to say, everybody thinks, well, it's a debtor, it's a debtor, it's a debtor, that's our slave, that's our slave. No, it's not your slave. It's only your slave if you let it be your slave. That's very valuable. That's a bank, it's a private bank, it's a private financial institution.
When you think about capital, okay, when you think about what is capital in the world of finance, right, and I have a background in business and have always paid attention to financial things in the world, isn't capital, like, that is our capital? The all capital letter.
Well, it is our capital. It's our equity, and what these guys do with it is, for instance, when you sign that mortgage loan, and you thought it was a mortgage loan, that really wasn't. They took that asset that has your all caps name to it, and they went and took it to market, and they sold it for full amortized value plus 15% or whatever it was, and they pocketed that equity. So they capitalized the asset. So exactly what they did. They capitalized it and they pocketed it. And because they pocketed it, it left a receivable on the books. So it's a separation of books at that point in time. And the person that signed for it is going to be the person that's the obligor to it, that has a debt that's owing. Well, guess who that is? That's our signature. That's our living man, living woman. Because when it comes down to payouts or payoffs or who's going to foot the bill, it's a living man, living woman that foots the bill. Same thing with a corporation cannot sign for stock transactions. It has to be a living person. So that's the bar that stands between us. That's the attorneys that are coming in, acting as our principal on our behalf. Of course, we never gave any of that permission to them, but that's how they're acting. So really, at the end of the day, when you get down to it, it's not that complex. It really isn't that complex to understand because the mechanics of it are pretty simple. The mechanics of it are, really, if I had to sum all this up in just a paragraph, it would be a theft of copyright, and it would be an abuse of power of attorney by an unwanted intermediary who is basically embezzling from us. And so what we have to do is we've got to go and we've got to kick the principal off his crown and put ourselves in a rightful position because we're the principal. And here's the thing about it. This is where it gets kind of complex, and you have to kind of go at this for a while and have a pretty good understanding of it. But it's incredible. I can pick up any number of patents. And it's very clear what they're doing. And in some patents, it's very blatantly states that we're pushing aside all legal and lawful principle, and we're basically hiding the carrot. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're stealing our asset. They're capitalizing it. They're pocketing the equity, which leaves the receivable on the accounts. So now what they've got is they've taken all ownership of our preferred shares, and they took them private. Well, okay, wait a second here. What the fuck, pardon my French, what the fuck gives you the right to take my private property and put it and make it part of your private property? Who gave you that right? I never gave you that right. I never gave that to you. You took that from me. You stole that from me through that merged nations bank agreement by not disclosing that to me. So you stole my identity, you stole my assets, and you took it private. What the hell gives you the right to do that? Nothing. You don't have that right. You can't take my private property and make it yours unless I consent to it. And I didn't consent to any of that stuff. So see, what it comes down to now, it quite literally comes down to rebutting presumptions. And you have to do it, I think it has to be more targeted and detailed than a blanket revocation that you put in at the county, because that's totally ineffective, because you're dealing with state and county governments and court systems that are that are rigged to operate administratively as a clearinghouse of copyright, and that's what these judges are. These judges are exercising and liquidating your books, basically, which are royalties. That should be your royalties, but somebody else took them. So I think it's the next part. The next part to understanding this is, okay, what am I now? You know, you're a whole person. You're a living woman, living man. You got a frame. You got 2 legs, 2 arms, 2 eyes, a mouth. You know, so you're a living person. You're a whole entity. Okay. Now, what they've done, and what I think people need to understand here, is they've sliced us into 1,000 different pieces, and have sent us off in 1,000 different directions, in 1,000 different characterizations. So yes, we are unborn livestock, houses and stockyards. We are biofuels. We are gas guzzlers. We're all these different configurations that are lines of business. And if you look at it that way, it's a little bit different. You got to get away from the conspiracy end of this thing, because conspiracy in this thing is you can go on that all day long, and you got to get off that stuff. You got to take it for what it is. Take it for face value. The face value of it is that this is commerce. Everything that they're doing to us is another line of business, but that line of business is another slice of us. Okay. Well, you know, they take claim to our property through it'll come in a minute, through air rights, through geo names, which is, you know, one of these mapping programs that they use for the counties and through BLM and all of these agencies. Well, that's a line of business for them, okay? But it's also something that they sold from under us. You know, it's, wait a second, what give you a right to sell my rights above my air or above my land as air rights? What gives you the right to sell my timber rights, which they've done, my water rights? No, but I never gave you those rights. But see, these are the things they're doing. They took these rights from you. So somebody has a slice of that, which has this ascertainable value to it. Okay, so you got all these different slices of you out there. Okay, so when they foreclose upon you, and the judge, you know, rules on summary judgment, what he's doing is he's just administered the royalties for all of those slices of you that were out there. So what you're doing is you're saying, screw you. Ain't gonna work that way. No. I'm coming in here. I'm coming in at Treasury. I'm Just Soleil. I'm Kenneth William Dost, living man, Just Soleil. I'm on the soil, and no, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. Any one of those 1,000 different slices of me is not a whole me. I want to be made whole. I want to take all. I demand that all lines of business are closed, and that they are accounted for and audited, and brought back to me for proper administration, or liquidation, or whatever I choose to do with it, because it's business. And we have to look at it that way, and that's exactly what we're doing. There's nothing wrong with, you know, everybody goes off about, wow, the county, Columbia County, oh my God, you listen on Dun and Bradstreet. So what? Who cares? I mean, who cares if they are? You got to have it's lines of businesses, it's corporations. Get over it. It has to be, because how else could it function? The point to understand here, though, is that you are a shareholder in that corporation, but they've made you an accommodating party. Two different things. So as long as you allow that to happen and you continue on these blatant presumptions that have been made, then yes, you are a debtor, and yes, you're going to get thrown in jail and get harassed and all kinds of shit is going to happen to you. Yes, it's going to happen because we are allowing that to happen. But you got to look at this differently. When you look at, there's always a black and white, there's left and right. There's always one side of a coin, there's the other side of the coin. So when you're saying, oh, we're just debtors, we're just slaves. Okay, you're a slave, or do you want to be free? Slavery, freedom. Make a decision on what it's going to be, and then stand firm on that. And those are the things that are coming to light right now. We've got a lot of power. We've got a lot of power if we allocate it properly and understand where we are on the land, and we stand firm on that, because there's not a damn thing that anybody can do to sway us on that. I mean, what can they do now? In the state and county and state, of course they can, because you're adherent to their statutes and codes. There's only place to get freedom, per se. The only place to put yourself back on the soil is through Treasury and IRS. And the reason for that, another reason for that, is we talk about how we're on the waters, how we're Admiralty Maritime, how we're lost vessels, and that is all done through the IRS, the back channels of the Internal Revenue Service, through the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And they've got us as narcotics traders, and that's how they've taken our property away from us. So this is the back line, the B line, onto the waters and across the waters to jolly old England. It all is through the back door of the IRS. Okay, so the only place that we can really properly get our status corrected, or not even corrected, properly stated, because that's what you're doing, you're properly stating what your status is through Treasury.
So as far as like documents that you have, and I'm sorry because I know there's probably a ton of people that want to ask questions, Ken, so we've got to open the floor up and give people an opportunity because we're plowing through a whole lot of information here. But as far as taking those steps and becoming the attorney in fact and the holder in due course and so forth and so on, do you have a method that you use to make those documents and make those documents public?
Well, I'm a creature of my own, I guess. I've never been one to listen to people. I never have. That's always been my problem. My mother called me why can't you ever conform, Ken? Why do you guys got to cause problems? That's how it's always been. If somebody said it was black, I would say it's always white. So, and I think it kind of is helpful here because, I couldn't cite a code to you if my life depended on it, but I can tell you how everything works and how everything goes together, and I can understand that, and I can convey that and talk about those things, but I couldn't, as far as code section or section of laws, like what section, what? I know some of them obviously, but I don't memorize that stuff. I don't go off on that stuff, and because I don't have to. Because I don't have to know those things. That's not for me to know. I mean, that's for codes and statutes. I don't want to know those things. The minute I start citing those things, then what have I done? I put myself right back into the system, and I'm kind of if I fight this system, I'm still with this system. So why would I do that? And as far as laws.
Is like, when you're talking about becoming the attorney in fact or the
affidavit, it's just an affidavit. It's all it is, an affidavit. It's just an affidavit, a statement that you make and you record it. I got mine recorded at the county. Some counties won't record it, so fine, put it in the UCC1 statement, put it and file it with the state, or do a public filing in a legal newspaper if you want to do it that way. But these are all. I don't go off any forms per se. I mean, there's a few things that I've used as a model basis, but as far as there's a doctrine that I don't think people are really aware of. And if you go on any like U.S. Commerce or you go on any of these agencies, and it's usually at the bottom, you'll find something called the plain language rule, and it says right there, you don't have to know this shit. Just speak plainly. It's a doctrine, and it's a doctrine that the agencies live by. They don't expect us to cite all these codes and sections, but we do it. We do it because I don't know why we do it. We do it because we think we have to.
We have nothing else to try. That's why we do it, because sometimes they won't hear us, and that's what sent me personally on this.
But the problem we've done though is we take things at face value too much. And I think that's what the problem is. We take, even when we're being deceived, and we don't even know we're being deceived. We're fighting the deception. We're fighting a double negative, essentially. We're still doing it. We're still taking everything at face value. Oh, it has to be this way. It has to be that way. We don't open up our eyes enough to see. Wait a second. There's a lot of agencies out there. There's a lot of things out there that are being recognized, but nobody's using them, like the plain language rule. And so when I do stuff, I just state it plainly. My notice of termination and termination and transfer title was I didn't cite no code sections in there. I didn't cite anything in there. I just basically said you're fired for such and such a reason, and this is who I am, and this is who you are, and that's it. At the end of the day, isn't that what it is anyhow? I mean, and you look, and I look at these guys that stole our rights from us. I look at, and maybe this helps too, is by reviewing some of these trademark assignments and contracts where they're floating all this shit through. They're speaking plain language in there too. I mean, it blatantly says, just one section in there says that we are grantors. We agreed to be grantors, and as grantors, we agree to act as the guarantor collateral, and that we exist for the privileges and well, not that privilege. That was the word. It was for the what was one word? We exist for the pleasure and profits of legal representatives and their affiliates. Well, bullshit. I don't exist for that, neither do you. But they're using plain language, and they're just hiding it. And so what they've done is they've stolen, all our common law, our natural rights, our constitutional rights. They stole all of that through plain language means, and just covered it over with codes and statutes, layer over layer, which is really just another layer of business, because it's all commerce anyhow. And these codes and statutes, all they are is business. It's just business of the corporation. It's business of CPS taking away kids so that they can get additional perks on their and awards. Same thing with the police. Everything. It's just lines of business. So you got to cut through all that crap, and you got to go down to the root core of this thing and what this is really about. And people talk about, Constitution's dead. Constitution's dead. Yeah, the Constitution's dead because we've made it dead. Because we haven't thought enough. How do we get back to that? We fight codes and statutes, and we do this and we do that, and everybody bitches and everybody whines. Understandably so. I get that. But what we fail to do, and this was the big failing, is that 1790 copyright. That thing's huge. That thing's absolutely huge. It's absolutely huge when you understand how big that is. That's our. It goes beyond just decay. That's our human rights right there. That's our right upon the soil. That's our right to travel. That's everything right there. That's our pass to say, hey, fuck you, people. Screw you. No, this is who I am. And what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with, Federal Reserve gave banks the authority to self-govern themselves, essentially. You just do what you want. And the OCC basically gave support to that when they deregulated everything, and they preempted and basically threw out all state consumer protection programs. They threw everything out, and they said, okay, you guys just regulate yourself. As long as it's an existing line of business that ties in with the business, ties in with the bank, that's fine. As long as and the big thing here, the whole big thing about this was, as long as it doesn't affect the business of banking or bring undue risk to the business of banking. Okay, so what they do, they made us the risk. They put all risk on us, and they took everything. That's exactly what they did. So you get down to the core elements of this thing, you strip this thing aside, you say, well, screw you. I'm a living man here. I've worked. I've got achievements. You stole my achievements. No, it's not going to work for me anymore. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stand for that stuff. And you make your claim. And when you make your claim, and common law is very much alive, they recognize as common law. I mean, it's just, I don't have the section in front of me. I should dig that section up and probably post it, because I read a whole detailed section on it that the Treasury went on and on. It's like, yeah, a man should be paid for what a man puts in his system, a man should get back from the system. And if one's been injured by this, then we've got to take that into account and measure that and give him his just due. Well, it's common law. And common law is very much alive, and they recognize it's very much alive. It's the only place it's alive.
Wow.
I lose it.
So you did so good on that, Ken, because that was exactly what went through my mind was the common law comes into play, with that plain language clause that you're referring to. Because we cannot possibly, be held to a standard that we never even knew existed of statutes and codes. There's over 100 million of them, aren't there?
Oh God! Well, there's more than that. There's these ISO standards and procedures that are out there, which is really just another variation of codes and statutes, essentially. But no, there's no way we possibly know all this stuff. We can't possibly know this stuff. We can't. I get, even if you start getting into, you go back in the constitutional law, and you start going through all that stuff. I mean, you can get lost pretty quick on those things. At the end of the day, it's very simple. It's you stole my identity, and you made money off my identity. You stole my pig. Give it back, damn it. And I want the profits that go with it. You didn't have a right to do that, but you did it anyhow. And they thought they could hide these things with codes and statutes, but guess what? They didn't count on me coming along, or somebody like me coming along, because this is the beeline to everything that saves us. Is copyright. That's our saving grace. That's our savings clause. Is copyright, and riding on that and really sticking on that, because the evidence. Now, if anybody really got in a pissing contest with me, I've had a field day. It's like, okay, come on over here. Let me, sit down here. Go sit on my lawn, because I'm going to need my whole acre of lawn to lay all the papers to show that you're full of shit, and to show you what's going on really going on here. Now you respond, because it's everywhere. I mean, and all we've got to do is stand on that. And I don't think we can go wrong. I really don't. I mean, we're going to see how it goes here, because I'm going through the process still. But I don't think that there's nothing they can really do, to stop anybody from going through this, because if they do, now they're in treason. And there is a government, there's a constitutional government. There are people that are sick and tired of these things, and they want to thump these guys. But they can't thump them until we come in proper standing or status, if you will, and do that. Now, earlier today, I read something, somebody posted something on my page who said, well, I don't think you understand. Going private takes a long time. You can't mix the public and private, and it could take up to a year to do. Well, that's not really what we're doing here, I don't think. I think what I'm doing, I think it's not really going private per se, but it's kind of correcting our status in the sense of how it's been manipulated, and we don't necessarily have to be private. I mean, even if you're private, you're still going to function in the public. So when people say, oh, you can't drag the public into the private and so on and so forth, and I'm starting to really find disagreement with that, because what did they do with us? What did they do? They took our private property, which is our copyright, and what did they do? They dragged it into the public, right? How'd they do that? They dragged it into the public every time when they serve foreclosure upon us. They drag us in front of a court. What they've done is they've dragged our private rights into the public. So in order to correct those things, we have to kind of reverse that back and kind of thump them and say, hey, no, you stole my, we got to make public proclamation of it. So to go back into the private, we still got to function in the public. So that's merely a scheme, if you will. Not a scheme. A scheme is the wrong word. A plan of how you want to do that. That's not really an overall solution. Going private. I mean, it's just one way of going. It's one system of going. But to sit there and say, oh, it takes a year or so to correct your status, not really. It shouldn't take a year. It shouldn't take a year, because when you push that first domino in Treasury and you're basically making your claim, you're saying, I want all books closed. I'm closing all books. Which means that you're closing out the public record, and they have to pull you from public record. So in this sense, it's really a business transaction. Again, goes back to 1790 copyright. The living man comes forward. Everything vests back to him. That's true. Everything vests back to us. So when we come forward, our public persona is a misapplication. It's not really, when people say it's not really us, it is, but it isn't. I mean, it's our property, but it's not really us, because the public record, the information is tainted. It's a violation of goodwill. They violated goodwill, because all of the trademarks and copyrights and that these government databases operate under, it's not necessarily mismanaged on their level as much as it is just wrong. It's incorrect. And why is it incorrect? Because we've been defamed of character by these e-government, by these government contractors like CoreLogic and First American Title and everything have functioned with the government, and the database is mixed between the public and private. Well, there's a marketable difference between the two, and our public persona is not really us in many cases because we've been abused or been set up or been targeted by the private side, which of course doesn't reflect because all that's showing is the public side. So what are you doing? You're going in and saying, screw that. This is me. This is who I am. All these lines of business out there, those are mine. I claim my copyright, common law copyright. Those are my lines of business, and I want to be made whole again. So you're basically converting those bonds to stock, and now you're a shareholder, stockholder. You're a part of the corporation. Yahoo! Now you can live your life, and if you want to go totally private, fine, go totally private, or just put trust stuff, set up a trust, and then you're still your public side. So I mean, I think people go way overboard with this private side and the difficulties of it. I don't think it's that difficult really. From the way I'm going and the way I'm seeing it here, it's just a matter of setting yourself up accordingly. To get to that point, I think is the first step to that, of course, is making that conversion. Once you make that conversion and you declare who you are and you stand by it, then you can start dealing with the assets and the tax shelters or whatever you want to do with it at that point in time. How you want to deal with it. That's a personal finance issue, if you will, at that point in time. But the point of it is to secure those lines and to stop the theft and stop the piracy against us. That makes sense?
Wow, that was excellent. Wow. Can we open up the floor now for anyone that would like to ask questions or, anyone out there who'd like to chime in here and ask Ken questions? That's been an awful lot of information. I'm sure that many of you out there must have something.
There's got to be somebody out there. Somebody tell me I'm talking too fast or something.
May I?
Please, go ahead.
Yes. Could you please comment more on the accommodating party? You had said that we are all shareholders, and they made us an accommodating party, and I don't understand what that means. Thank you.
Okay. An accommodating party is that's your debtor side. That's your federal public money side. Using the MERS Nations Bank as the backdrop here, that particular agreement, which was never revealed to us, was intentionally concealed from us, is drawn under the laws of the Commonwealth of the State of Virginia. And it's a Commonwealth. So as a Commonwealth, you've got, first of all, it's a beeline over to Admiralty Maritime and to the British Bar, but more so, it allows state judges to take cognizance of federal law. So what you have going on here is you have the state law basically thumbing their noses at federal law, but at the same time, they're getting federal public money to be able to for state programs, for pensions, for all kinds of things, for pocketing, put money in their pocket, and the basis for that is us. So basically, we're an accommodating party for the flow of federal public money into the hands of criminals, crooks, and thugs. Not always. I mean, sometimes it is done properly as it should be, but it's increasingly more and more now just a matter of laundering money from federal public money into the hands of criminals and crooks. And we're the accommodating party, so we're serving as the party that's been served up by the intermediary to give monies to state actors and judges and so on and so forth. Now. The difference between that and a transmitting utility, the transmitting utility, that's your res, that's your lifeblood, that's you, that's your energy, and so when you claim that, when you revoke and rescind our status as an accommodating party, what you're saying is that no, I'm the creditor here. I'm the one that's transmitting energy. I'm the one that is a private equity here. I'm the one that's driving all these investments and profits, and those profits and investments don't belong in the hands of people that are trying to steal from me as an accommodating party. I'm the creditor, so it's supposed to come to me. Does that make sense? I hope I answered that question properly.
Yes, it does.
That was great. I was just about to ask you about the transmitting utility thing, and there you were.
Well, that's a life-death issue. You know, when you're talking about I'm coming to life and death, and you know, if you're talking about we're just a slave to debt, and we're just a debtor, and we're just a debtor, we got to update our terminology, and we got to talk the talk to modern times. And the way that's set up now is in the way that we're functioning is our debtor or our bond or our slave or whatever you want to call it is an accommodating party. So we're basically in service to accommodate the transactions of federal public money into hands of third parties, when in fact, as a transmitting utility, it should come in our hands.
Perfect. Wow. Incredible. Anyone else out there have questions for Ken Dost?
If I may.
Please.
Oh, I yield.
Go ahead, Steve.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, well, it just seems to me, I don't have a mortgage, so it seems like it's going to be easier for me to do this, since I don't have a mortgage. I know that a lot of people do, but I don't.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be easier or not. For me, the same process, though. It's no different. You know, I think to some degree, at least into breaking or clearing the pathway, so to speak, I think it's going to be easier if you do have a mortgage, and especially if you've got MERS on it, which is 100 million people. In many respects, it should be easier for you. Because it's you do the same claims, the same terminations, the same affidavit, and it should be they'll sail right through because it's being done to everybody, whether you're a mortgage holder or Sally Mae or credit cards or whatever. You're still the transmitting utility, and you still have stocks and bonds out there to take claim to.
Okay, thank you very much. Are you?
Wonderful. Anyone else?
If I may.
Oh, please. Yes, Justice Johnson.
Ken Dost, I have sent you a friend or a contact request on Skype. I look forward to you receiving it so you and I can communicate privately.
Very well. Yeah, I did see that today.
Yeah, I'm Watchman USA on there. So.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw. I don't know Skype that much. I was on it for a few minutes before, and I saw it. So yes, I'll go back and accept it. Now that I'm talking to you, know who you are.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I got a couple of things I want to run by you, and definitely want to get together with you more on a private level and get this figured out.
Okay.
A lot of the things you've thrown out here the Monday before and tonight have been rather enlightening, to say the least, and I do know that there's another step in this effort that I'm trying to do. But the big three are basically status correction, a UCC1's type of filing per se, and a treasury interface.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Another very important part of this is IRS. IRS is going to be our conduit to really to balance the books. I mean, that's really, that's our public side of the books. But public and private, actually, they're mixed in public and private.
Yeah, when you know how to use the IRS correctly, they are indeed one of your best assets.
Yes, I agree. Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, what the IRS, the notice IRS sent me, and that nugget they gave me, they gave a huge gold nugget right there. They basically step across the face and say, hey, get your filings current so we can do a proper assessment, and to do a proper assessment, do it for you. I mean, that's a huge little golden nugget there. So yes, and I do know for a fact that the IRS, there's a lot of agents out there that are itching to get at these people. We got to come in proper standing to make the claim so that they can go after these guys.
Because the IRS is essentially neutral per se.
Yes.
If you're coming at them in adversarial capacity, then they'll slap you down. They've got the tools to do it, and more capacities than one. If you're coming at them properly, yeah.
Right. Well, exactly. It's just my case. They came back and said, "Well, you're a tax protester. You're violating the law, and blah blah blah. And there's all kinds of laws in it. You have to do."
Sure.
Well, that's the capacity I'm coming in. So we got to change our capacity, and we got to. Exactly. That's all we've got to do. Once we do that, then they become an asset to us.
Yep. All right. I yield the floor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And who else would like to ask Ken Dost a question? Speak up now.
If I may. If I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
This is Marshall Pruitt of Missouri. I've been following you for quite a while, Ken. We're friends on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. I know who you are. Yes, I know who you are. Familiar with it. How you doing?
Okay. I'm hanging in there. It's good to talk to you. I'm learning all this and trying to take all this in. It's an awful lot. My son understands things better than I do when it comes to this. Now, I posted a audio video on Facebook. I think it was last week, and it was from KW, and he was talking about the birth certificate and how it is an entity, and you are the responsible. See, how did he put that? You're the responsible agent for that agency.
Okay. I don't know if I'd agree with that totally, but okay.
Okay, and he says that in order to correct our status and get out from underneath their admiralty law and their all their codes and statutes and their tyrannical ways of doing things, you write he's got a 10-step. It's pretty simple. My son's writing down, he's looking into it.
Okay.
And so is do you know Chief Justice Michael Hamilton?
No, that name's not familiar.
Okay, I really wish you'd speak to him because he's quite a mind. You'll enjoy speaking with him. He's one of my friends, so you can find him very, very easily. Yes, okay. Michael Hamilton. He's going to try the 10 steps and do it, but basically what it is you write a letter resigning as the responsible agent for the agency.
Right. So it's a revocation of election, essentially.
Okay. Well, see, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I'm having a hard time with it, I guess. So would that be correct to do that?
Well, yeah, I would word it a little bit differently though, because you're really you're resigning. You're resigning your agency. You're resigning from office, and you're resigning all election. You're basically resigning from everything. You're resigning because you've got that power of attorney that's in between. So really, what you're doing, what he's doing, and what I'm doing, the same thing really, is what you're doing is you're removing that bar between the all caps and the living man, and you're taking control of that. So I mean, really, I think it's particular to what agency you're going to. So in the case of the IRS, it's definitely a revocation of election because they're electing in our stead or in our interest, well, in their interest, what status we're going to be. So they're changing our status on that. So by election. As far as resigning, what do you say? Resigning agency? Yeah, you're resigning agency as well.
You're resigning as the responsible party for the agency, is how he put it.
Well, yeah, you're the responsible party for the agent because you're the primary obligor in all these transactions, and you're the guarantor collateral. So you're the surety. So that's really what he's doing. He's resigning as surety, and he's resigning all responsibility because that's what we've been set up as is the surety. When in fact we should be the principal. It should be reversed. We're actually the principal, not the surety. So yeah, it makes sense what he's saying. It does make sense what he's saying. Where's he submitting those though?
Oh, you would ask that. Right
well,
now.
There's a lot of.
I think he may. I think he may instruct. Just going off memory here of what I heard on his recordings, but I think he said that you need to do your documents not only in the state that you live in, but also the state of nativity.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, yeah, I've heard that as well, and I've filed some things in Ohio where I was born. I filed some things here in Oregon. But I still think that the problem I have with that is you got to target the hub. And the hub, from 10 years of research and everything that I know as being true and correct, that hub is Treasury, because that hub is the only place that you can make that claim of life, and that you can convert to bond, which is the birth certificate. You can convert it through the state. I think I know somebody who's done it through the state of Ohio, but that still doesn't. That's just one state. I mean, you've got, I mean, rightfully speaking, if you're going to do this by state, you'd want to file it in every 50 states, because they've got lines of business on us in every 50 states. So the only problem I would have with what he's doing, or the only suggestion I would have, is to take it federal, because what you have here is you've got states that are you've got a lawless society right now. I mean, it literally is lawless. The states are running amok, and the feds need to bring them under control. And the feds have all authority to thump on them. But we've got to come in proper standing and proper claim for them to do that. So the only comment I would have on what he's doing is I would add a third party to that, and that'd be the federal government, Treasury. So if he's doing state, and it does make sense to do it in the state you were born and the state you reside, I would domicile then. It does make perfect sense to do that. But your hub, and I call it a hub because all spokes of a wheel go to a hub, a central location. That central location, that hub, is Treasury. So that's the only thing I would say is include that. But I agree with what he's doing. It's just he's just using a couple of different terms with usage of terms.
Thank you, Ken.
Yes, thank you very, very much.
Anyone else out there have questions? I'm sorry, Marshall Pruitt.
That's fine. I yield.
Anyone else out there have any questions?
Yeah, I would say something about what Marshall was saying about how confusing this is. I get it. It is very confusing. It's a lot of information. It is a lot of information. So that's why you've got to whittle it down to its most fundamental core. And that fundamental core is you on the soil, and I think that's all you got to leave it at. I mean, I love Anna to death. I'm a very good friend of Anna's. Her and I are personal friends, but I think sometimes we go too far on certain things that we just beat it to death. I think that, and that makes it more complicated. I know that when I've gone down a lot of these roads, and I'm very stubborn. I mean, I go the direction that my gut tells me to go, and the way I think I should go. But I've had to deviate. I had done so because I had to. I had to go follow down some of these paths where people are going, and it gets more complicated because you get into all these histories and all this stuff of France and England, just all these things, and it just spins your head out. And I finally realized, that's all well and good, but at the end of the day, does it really do anything for us? I mean, does it help us understand anything any better? I don't know if it does. It doesn't. I think it more confuses us than anything else. So I really think the simplest way of looking at this thing and the simplest approach to this is what we're talking about here in simple terms, as far as what your living person represents and what that all caps name represents, and understanding that what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with identity theft. Call it infringement if you want to call it intentional trespass. It's both of those and all of those. That functions in commerce. And if you look at it that way, and you look at it from a business point of view and say, okay, well, you got a corporation, you got a holding company, you got LLCs, and start breaking it down into simple business components and how stocks operate and bonds operate in this very simple business format, then it becomes easier to understand these things, because that's all you're really doing. All these promissory notes, all these instruments, they're just different conversions that are functioning in commerce. That's all they really are. And when you realize the power you have on the land, and I think the biggest turning point for me on all this stuff was because I struggled with this birth bond thing for a long time, because it couldn't justify my mind. Okay, I'm making this claim for this birth account, this trust account that's out there, and at the end of the day, we've really overblown the value of that. I mean, yes, the birth account is very important. It's your entry ticket, though. That's really what I've come to take it and accept that's really what it is, because it's not the birth certificate that has the lines of business on it. It's all the spokes that emanate from that have the lines of business. So your birth certificate is really just an entry ticket into it, and really. I'm going to say this because I want people to understand that when people say, "Oh, we're just these are all debtor bonds," and that's a mischaracterization. Not really true. When we were born, they issued savings bonds. They're savings bonds, for God's sakes. That's all they are. They're savings bonds that we failed to cash in on our 6 months. At 6 months, I think it was, after the age of majority, and then we let them go. And we never cashed in. We never went forward. We never made the statement that I'm self-governing. I'm an adult now. I can take care of myself. I don't need your codes and statutes. Oh, by the way, let me cash out my savings bonds. We didn't do that. So what happened was they just got this bond kind of just languished out there. And I'm 52 right now, and those bonds, in my case, have stopped earning interest years ago, decades ago. But I could still collect on them. I just got to have them reissued to me and then liquidate them. But to sit there and say that your birth certificate is a debt bond, that's a mischaracterization. That's not true. That's not really how it works. I mean, you're a debtor because of the banking system, the way that the banking system has converted us into these back-end tax shelters, balance and excise taxes, and then taking our tax credits from us. I mean, that's really what we're dealing with here. To sit there and say that this birth bond is cashing your birth bond is worth billions of dollars, that's the wrong approach. And I think people are going to take that. I mean, yeah, maybe it works for one or two people, but that's about it. I mean, it has no relevance into the actual function and functionality of what's really going on. I think we've got to come to terms on that thing and what that birth certificate really is. And again, it goes back to all these other things that we have misconceptions of. Now, that's not to say that the birth bond wasn't dead at one point in time. What it's saying is that it's like straw men, an accommodating party. It's straw man had its day, okay, but it's a term that's archaic now. It's a term that really doesn't have proper usage in today's technology, and that's what we're dealing with, today's technology and today's language, which is accommodating party. So I think we've got to. I think the mistake that a lot of people have made is that they've gone back in time to bring up all these issues, and it's not that they're wrong. It's just that it's not pertinent to the way society is. I mean, what you have to realize, and you really have to realize this, is that UCC 9, those revisions in 2001, that turned everything around. That changed everything. That was a coup d'etat. I mean, prior to that, you could sell a copyright and everything, but you couldn't collateralize it. You couldn't break it apart. You couldn't do virtual conversions on it. You couldn't do those things prior to the revisions. So when those revisions came along, I mean, it took everything that we thought was paradigm. It threw it out the door completely. It was a total coup d'etat. So when people are talking about all these solutions and how things are and what we need to do and everything, they're failing to take into account, or they haven't recognized, and they really do need to recognize that there was a coup d'etat. And everything that you think is true is directly opposite. And to ignore that is irresponsible, I think, and it's going to get people hurt. And it is getting people hurt. So really what we've got to do is all we've got to do is just form a basis of fact. And we've got to become sophisticated. And I don't like using that word, but that's the word that's used a lot, that I hear a lot. That's used a lot in these areas, is that they've used sophisticated technologies that they did not inform us of to dupe us. And in its place, they've portrayed, or they've fabricated a paradigm existing and continuing that was blown out of the water 2 decades ago.
Wow. That really shines a whole another perspective on things, Ken.
Well, it is. I mean, you got to look at the old word. I remember the old word was always shadow banking. Okay, this is shadow banking system. It's different though. I would use that word now. It's not shadow banking system. Actually, what it is, it's a system of secret liens that they've instituted, and that a couple of decades ago the courts would castigate and hated. And there's all kinds of case law on secret liens and the courts hating and foreboding of secret liens. But you don't see that nowadays. Why? Because hey, we're the bankers, we're the brokers. God, we got to fix this. What do we do? Let's put them in the revenue stream. That takes care of it, and that's what they've done. But the whole system's different now. And so when you sit there and say the system's crooked and codes and statutes, okay, well, why are codes and statutes crooked? What's the source of it? And you start tracking back the source. You have to do that. You got to go back to the core of things. You can't. What I see people do a lot of times is they'll sit there and focus on one thing. And they're just focusing on it. Well, wait a second, what's on the other side of the wall? And nobody wants to look at what's on the other side of the wall. And when you look at what's on the other side of the wall, you start putting those pieces together, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, shit. It's pulling the curtain back on Oz. I mean, we could do it. There's nothing preventing us from doing that. There's nothing to prevent us from going up to the wizard and just pulling that curtain back. It's for some reason we don't do that, though. And we have to do that, because once we do that, then one, we have the answers that we need, and two, you really realize how deceptive things are, and how your reality is really a lie, and that's hard to deal with, and it's very enraging. But once you cross that line, then it becomes a point of empowerment, because you see where you are on the line, you see how things really function. And when you really see how things function, you can see where you need to go with these things. It makes things a lot easier. So it is worth the effort.
Thank you. And it certainly, in my opinion, is there's nothing worth giving up this fight. There just isn't anything out there. That's one of the reasons that we've seen so many fallen brothers and sisters in our fight for just freedom. Anyone else have? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to invite anyone else to ask questions. Don't be shy. Go ahead.
This is Marshall Pruitt again from Missouri. Okay, so the way I understand it, and the way I've understood this for a while now, Ken, is that the all caps, that is the old terminology is the straw man. That's what I knew it as, a straw man.
Yes,
so you're saying
that was the old characterization, yes.
The accommodating party would be a more proper term for it nowadays. Yes.
Because your accommodating party is carrying value that's being delivered to third parties that are your benefits. So it's really it's a fiction of you, obviously, and it is a fiction. Like I said, they converted these into put us into bond tax credits and gas guzzlers and biofuels and all kinds of nonsensical things. Okay, so that's so if you want to take straw man one step further, you can define it as that. But the more proper term for that would be a derivative creation of a straw man. And the reason, and what a derivative is very simple. Derivative is not complex. I mean, it goes off in all directions and everything, but it's not complex. And what it is, well, first of all, go to a mortgage. A mortgage a mortgage derives out of copyright. A mortgage is a copyright. It's under copyright law. And so is a derivative. And all a derivative is a slight alteration of copyright that does not impede or take away from the underlying person or object of that copyright. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that as long as they can stick a debt on us and call us the obligor, they can create any line of business that they want, any derivative investment that they want. So that's the new straw man, which takes it totally beyond what it was before. That makes sense?
It's starting to. It's slowly but surely it's working its way in there. You know, we have to completely retrain ourselves from the way we've been taught.
Yes. And we got to be able to defend and stand on that because, when it comes to straw man, in 2015, the Board of Secretaries of State put out a study, and they talked about, they castigated the people that were advocating for straw man. They denied that a straw man existed and this and everything. But you know what? Now once you properly understand it and what it stands for, you can tell them, you can go up to their face and say, bullshit. Prove me. Give me the facts to show me that I'm wrong. Because they can't do it. They can't do it. I mean, I don't think that. I think that we stand at and I say this wrong. We stand at a pivotal point in history here, because in the past, they've gotten away with all these shadow systems and all these operations that they've done, and but we've never really been able to pin down die-hard proof on these things. But it's easy to do now. It's simple because they patented the whole damn thing. They ran everything through copyrights and trademarks, and these are all recorded on a. Sorry, a truck's going by right now. These are all recorded in public databases. So everything, all the crimes that they've done, all these conversions and derivatives of the former straw man, which now accommodating party, are all well documented. All we've got to do is look at it. And once you understand the concept behind it, you'll start flipping out. You'll start dancing in the street because you'll see how it really works, and you'll see that holy shit, the evidence is everywhere, and that's what's the empowering part about this thing. They can't deny it.
Well, I don't know too much about a mortgage because I've never had one. I've had a couple houses. I have one now, and pieces of land, but I never had a mortgage. I bought four pieces of property that I've bought over the years. I bought them all from the people that owned them, and they financed them, and it was so it wasn't really a real mortgage,
But it still is a title, though. It still is a title, and a title is copyright. Title is copyright. You got equitable and you got legal, and your legal title is copyright.
Okay. Now, for the lowercase, now is that if you use like your first name with the first letter capitalized and the rest of it lowercase, and your middle the same way and your last name the same way, that is still the living man, right?
Yeah, I don't go as far as people do with, like I said, for instance, Kenneth William of the House Dost. I mean, it's not that's wrong, but it's laughable because we're dealing in a system of commerce. And if we're going to deal in a system of commerce, we still have to deal with their ways of doing things, and to a certain degree, obviously. And I've seen that. I mean, I've talked to people, and I see Kenneth William of the House, they laugh their asses off because it doesn't have any functionality in commerce, and that's what we're dealing with is in commerce, and it's dealing with titles. So when I sign something, or when I do an affidavit or do a termination, whatever I'm doing, I'll do it as Kenneth William Dost, and I identify myself as a living man, just delay on the soil, and UCC 1, always reserved, so on and so forth. So really, it's a manner in which it's not just the way you write your name or you sign your name or whatever. It's what titles you attach to yourself to define that name. So, for instance, you're all Kenneth William Dost, all caps. Okay, you can say it's my debtor, and it is my debtor. But Kenneth W. Dost is my Kenneth Dost is my Social Security. Kenneth W. Dost is functions in various lines of commerce and government and whatnot. But Kenneth William Dost, my all caps name, that's my estate, that's my trust, that's my financial institution, to which Kenneth William Dost is the master account holder. So it's a way you identify your terms and what you are and how you identify those. We automatically assume that this all caps name is a debtor. Well, no, it's not your debtor. It's a private bank. You claim it as so.
What is the significance of the hyphen, colon, all that?
You know what? I don't have an answer for that. I don't know the answer for that. I've seen it in government agencies, seen it in fiscal services, and
I know the answer to that.
Referring to it and signing in that sense. I'm naive on that. I don't know what the history on that one is, but I know that's how they read it, and that's how it's represented, and that's how I go with it. And it's
if I may.
Huh?
I yield. Yes, go ahead, John.
I may. It is syntax. Punctuating your name turns it into a prepositional phrase, which is true mathematical language.
Logical. Okay. So that Kenneth William Cole would be of the house Dost.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
What it does is it turns it from just Kenneth William Dost into for the Kenneth William of the Dost, which is a prepositional phrase.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Perfect sense. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so instead of having to write it out, you can just use the Justice Johnson. I'd like you to go over that sometime with me and
how many days
you're autographing. You're autographing it. When you put your signature, you're autographing.
Yeah,
and it's by your autograph.
Yep, it is. You don't want to sign anything. You always want to autograph.
Right. And now, if you're doing a document that you're referring to your common law copyright, your trademark, which is your all caps name, then you'll print it out. So I'll write authorized representative of, and I'll print Kenneth William Dost all caps out.
Yeah. Here's another question. When on a lot of these forms and everything, they always say sign or signature or so forth. Should you write over that?
Just write all rights reserved. Just write your signature as we talk about it, the hyphen and the colon, and all rights reserved. UCC, what's it? UCC 1-308, all rights reserved.
308.
Yeah.
Yeah, all rights reserved.
308. Also, I would like to add that 1-1 UCC 3-114 is also a very useful tool in that concerning handwritten documents as opposed to typed up stuff.
Okay, well, now you're going into another area that we probably should talk about. So, won't go into much detail here on it, but because it's a whole other topic, but is the conversion to electronic signatures and the digital keys and everything. That's a huge issue right there. So that's another thing that we need to revocate as well, and revoke and rescind and so on and so forth. Because everything we do automatically gets converted to electronic format anyhow. And so in terms of signatures, really, signatures are dead. I mean, I don't have when you sign on I go down to Dost Brothers, get a coffee, I sign on it. I don't sign. It's a squiggle nowadays.
Now, if we were to talk send preposition, article, noun, phrasing, or as David Wynn Miller calls it, correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, that would take a while.
Yeah, it doesn't.
He does 9-hour seminars that don't even get through it all.
But does he talk about computer coding and encoding? Because that's all the stuff that we're dealing with here. So this is all the underlying aspects of all these things that really, to some degree, all of anything above ground, if you will, is really is almost totally irrelevant nowadays because we're dealing with encodings and cryptocodes and all those things. And all those issues, and that is something we got to deal with. We've got to capture all those and take control of all those. But that's a subject for another day. But again, it goes back to what's archaic and what's not. What we really need to address. And at the end of the day, it's obviously there's our signature, our handwritten signature, and our claim to get us into the system, if you will, to take charge of our accounts. But then we're going to pass over into another subject, another topic, which is securing the private PKI keys for all of these, because that's really what they've captured from us, what they've stolen from us. And I'll give you for instance, is they have changed our status, and the way that they get foreign, whether they're able to hide these accounts in foreign accounts is by converting our status through a DHS electronic visa that they're using a private crypto key for, which we never gave them, obviously, which they stole from us, and they created on their own. So it's fabrication and forgery. So I mean, these are all other issues that we got to deal with as we get further into this. But these are things that these are the topics that we're going to be in that are really pertinent once we make that initial conversion.
Have you wrote a book, Ken?
Hell no. I don't want to write a book. I don't want to write a book. I want to go sailing is what I want to do.
You know, you could just do a compilation of your stuff and make that your book. You've already written it.
I don't know. I can tell myself as soon as I get through this, I just want to just go buy an island and go sailing. But I have a feeling the good Lord's not going to let me go from this for a while.
Well, if you did that, that would be a waste of what the good Lord has blessed you with. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bunch of your curse.
I don't think so. I think you can call us from an island. I think you can.
Yeah, I could.
On all the fun. They have internet access everywhere now.
This is true. This is true. I need a vacation. Let's put it that way.
He'll get bored, and he'll have to try and educate somebody.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, that's why we're working on the website to get things out there properly presented, and that's being worked on. That's being built, and that'll have a lot. It's going to be off Facebook, obviously, because Facebook's not functional in that sense. And it'll be a good educational tool that'll be linked together with patents and walk through the whole process. So you understand what a patent is and how a patent functions, and the interrelationship between the intellectual properties and how this all functions so everybody has a better understanding. And then, of course, instructions on different methods of administrative relief and forms to fill out and affidavits and so on and so forth. So it'd be a very valuable tool. I think that's probably. I was hoping it was going to be out. I was hoping it was going to be out by now, but I really think it's going to be another month before we get it totally together. But it's going to be a very, very good tool. And what I'd really like to see happen from that actually is my vision of that is I would like to see that really blossom into a worldwide movement of education, because it's not really about. I mean, remedy is obviously important, but we have to learn. We really do have to learn to function in this world. We have to learn. We have to catch up to what they've made us ignorant of. So we have to become sophisticated to how the world really functions now, because everything we thought was that old paradigm and the way accounts work and so on and so forth, that's gone. And until we get ourselves up to speed on how the new system operates, we're gonna we lost a little steep. So I'm hoping that's what this website serves the basis for.
Nice. We're anxious to have to be able to view your website, Ken.
Well, I'm anxious to get out too. I mean, some of these patents are pretty incredible. And people ask me about patents and which one should I read, and it's like, yeah, it's just I got a whole library here. Which ones are more important? And it's not that I want people to. Patents are boring. I mean, they're boring. They're just boring. They're boring, and there's nothing exciting about them until you start understanding what they mean. And then it becomes exciting because those sons of bitches they're fabricating things. They can't do that, and you see how they're making things up. So it really gives a good insight into how blatant things are, and it really is. I mean, we're in a state of crisis. We're in a state of total lawlessness, and it's per our own ignorance. But I don't think we can blame it on our own ignorance because they've intentionally. Because it's so simple, and it really is. I mean, they're just making things up. They just say, well, we're going to take a pool of a pool that's a spreadsheet here, and we're going to subdivide it into different classes of stock, and then we're going to convert this stock over to bonds at 6 months down the road, to have a yield, so on and so forth. So they're literally making things up. Okay, and the functionality of it is because they've hid it from us, and they've kept us stupid and ignorant of the fact that hey, we're actually the equity holder and actually the shareholder, stockholder, investor, creditor. That we don't see how they're manipulating us and everything, and that's exactly what they're doing. So in those respects, it's well worth learning these things because you really learn how things function and you really learn. But it also is enraging when you look at how many people are losing their lives and you see the evil behind it because it's such a night and day tragedy, really, by what they're creating. It's hard to explain. It's so blatant.
It has been said that they have to do everything in plain, open sight. And boy, when you start getting these things hitting you, you see how that works. Am I right?
It's all there. I mean, everything's there. Everything. I mean, they told us how they were going to create this new world order back in, I think, it was 1986 patent. It was called privatization marketplace. They told us exactly what they were going to do. I mean, so it's not like it's hidden. It's coded, and it's it's hidden in that sense. But it's different with this though, because it's such a blatant theft of the most fundamental right which you have, which is your human rights and your dignity and your right to live and walk on the land and pursue your happiness and so on and so forth. And the object of that literally is these copyright rights and licenses. I mean, it really, when you really cut through all the bullshit on this stuff, that's what it comes down to. It's very simple. They stole our right to live, and it's through a copyright license. And when you get that, when you really wade through all this confusion and complication and all this bullshit out there, it really comes right down to that, and it's like, holy crap. So in the sense of them covering it up, yeah, I could see why they went to extreme measures to make sure that we never would ever look in these areas, because now that they were there and we see it, we can destroy them. We can destroy them pretty easily. All we got to do is just come together and march on with our administrative processes, and there's nothing they can do. So, yeah, I mean, they went to extreme measures to make sure that we'd never find this out. And sorry, gig's up.
Wow, incredible information, and everybody needs to know. Everybody does need to know at least enough to know that they have been trespassed upon, or that it's time for people to wake up. This has been going on for so long that most of the ones that are in positions that are helping with this this horror of trespassing upon us, they don't even know. So we're dealing with ignorance in many, many places.
Well, it's not easily recognizable, obviously, and it does take effort to learn these things. I mean, if I went down and picked up a guy off the street and started explaining these things to him, I think I'd be totally insane. And it's not so much because he's ignorant; it's also because he hasn't been through what we've been through. I mean, it's one thing to sit there and speak truth to somebody, but if they've not experienced what we've experienced and the years that we fought these things, then they wouldn't have a clue. So I think that the good thing here is that it's a time capsule, if you will, that will be a guide for future generations and the next group of people that come through. Because I mean, let's face it. I mean, what I've seen here is, and I know this from my own personal experience and from seeing what has happened to other people and the stories and whatnot, is that we were targeted. Okay, we were intentionally targeted for a financial collapse and ruin. And that's what they did. But, they don't target everybody. I mean, there's still a good percentage of people out there that are going through life that think everything's hunky-dory and life is great and grand and whatnot. And that's fine. More power to them. And to some degree, I wish I was one of them, But, their day may come. Their day may not come. If it does, then, they'll I think we'll have an easier time of it, because they won't have to go through this the crap that we went through for years and years, which is fighting a court system that is a kangaroo court and it's rigged and whatnot. They won't have to do that. So that's a good thing here. But I think that it's one of these things that I don't think you're going to create a run on the bank here with what we're doing here by getting our remedies and go through Treasury. I mean, if you think about it on the simplistics of it, it's like, holy shit, if everybody knew this, man, it'd be a run on the bank. And that's true. If everybody knew this, it would be very bad, and exercise these things would be a very bad thing. The whole economy would collapse, the global economy would collapse, and it would never recover. But, I mean, if you look at this realistically, if 1 million of us go through it, 5 or 10 million of us go through it, it's not going to do anything to affect the system or bring down a collapse of the system, because it's just, a lot of people give up. A lot of people will never take interest. They just gave up, and that's fine. That's what they choose to do. That's fine. But then the next breed will come up, So that's why I see. That's why I see a cycles going on here. So, I don't know.
Wow. Anyone have any questions for Ken out there? You've been giving us an awful lot of wonderful information, Ken. I know that people are going to spend a great deal of time going through everything that you've said. And, I hear about
I'll have somebody tell me.
of notes.
I'll have somebody tell me. I always do. I had to tape it. I had to slow it down. Sorry, people. I can't. I wish I could slow down my language. I just can't.
I was just gonna say that trying to take notes from you, Ken, is impossible.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Every time I get on one of these phone calls, I say to myself, "Okay, Ken, slow the fuck down, slow down." And I just can't do it. It's just. So I figured, well, people can tape it; they can slow it down. That's fine.
I have a daughter just like you. She talks so fast you can't keep up with her. You have to make her say one word at a time because otherwise you cannot possibly understand.
Yeah, and I get that. Thank God for archives.
And you know what? Your flow of information tonight has been just beautiful. So, it's what you've done tonight by sharing all of this information is wonderful, and I know it's going to help so many. I think there was someone that I heard in the background asking for the floor. If you'd like
Ken, hi. I'd like to know if you could recommend one of those boring manuals to read. I read government documents, so it doesn't matter to me. But
I can give you a library of patented documents. That's what you're referring to, patents?
Can you get my email from Catherine?
Sure.
I'm Pam. I'm in Florida, and I do a lot of that stuff. So.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, I'd be glad to. I mean, there's some. I mean, your government. I'll just give you a couple patents that really are the most descriptive, and they're 200 pages long. But I mean, it's really the fundamentals and diagrammatics of what securitization actually is. It's long, it's dry, it's dull, but if you're into it, then it's fantastic.
Well, I've delved more into. I do my research. I go in different directions with it, and a lot of it's financing, and it's all corruption. But hey, what can I?
Well, that's what patents are financing. That's all it is. Mostly patents are just a Wall Street financial instrument.
I
really
understand what you say when you say until you understand it. Then it's becomes you go with it, and it used to be that way with me. And I had a guy from a finance department tell me that I don't understand why we write these things and no one reads them. And I looked at him and I said, I do.
Well, as far as patents are concerned, the patent is the tax code and all these tax shelters. I mean, that parallels a patent, which is also parallels a financial instrument, also parallels an insurance scheme. I mean, so everything's parallel to everything. But it all really comes down to the hub of it is patent. That's what everything springs off of. And of course, what springs off a patent is your trademarks and your financial goods that spin off of that. So I mean, it really everything does mimic everything else.
Well, I do appreciate it. Catherine, this is Pam on Florida.
Hey, Pam, how are you?
Okay. Well, if you could just pass my information along, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly.
I'd be glad to email you some.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem.
Pam is kind of our go-to gal. If there's something in particular that you're trying to find information on, she has an incredible knack for putting her fingers on things and loading you right up with whatever it is that you're looking for. So
good. People like that. A lot of people like that. I think if you're beginning into this, I think probably the best thing would be to get. I mean, the patents, like I said, are very technical, but the functionality of these things, as far as if you're talking about, a lot of people are what's the first thing that happens when they get served with foreclosure? They go to the PSA, right? That on the SEC of the loan trust that's been foreclosed upon, and of course that's just a gimmick, right? I mean, that's not even really document we really should be looking at. There's so many other documents that are more pertinent to us. But the functionality of those, the contracts and the assignments, a lot of people say, well, why the hell did Wells Fargo get this and Bank of America's got now? I mean, the flow of all these documents, the flow of these transactions are all being conducted through trademarks and through trademark assignments. That's where all their contracts are and all the security agreements are. And I don't know, and I'll mention this because I haven't mentioned it in a while. In terms of assignments, if it was a real property transaction, of course there would be, if it was a true UCC 3 negotiable instrument, what would there be? There'd be a chain of title, an endorsement, and a recording to the county. And everybody said, well, there isn't one. But and they're absolutely right, there isn't any. But nobody in these court cases has ever brought forth or asked a proper question and then answered that question. And that proper question would be, well, there is no chain of title. And of course there's not a chain of title. Why? Because we're not dealing with real property transactions or those kind of assignments. We're dealing with an assignment in trademark, which is a totally different manner of assignment and conveyance and transfer and all these things. And just for that's a very important informational piece is that every assignment, every assignment, conveyance, transfer, mortgage, all these things are recorded through the United States Patent and Trademarks Office. Every one of them. That's where all the recordings are going. Why? Because that's how trademarks assign, and that's how it's an intellectual property. So the matter of the transfer is totally different than what it is for real property. Totally different. And so, I mean, these are the things that now, if you want to persist in fighting against a court that is crooked as hell, I mean, that would be an argument to really lay down for them and stump them, because it's like, yeah, there is no chain of title, because it doesn't have to be, because we're dealing with something totally different here. That was not conveyed to us. I mean, but you never get anywhere, obviously, in a crooked court system, because they just don't care, and they're conducting their lines of business. So, but that's how everything conveys. So, I mean, as far as the way that they're converting our copyright, and the way that they're taking our rights from us, and it really clearly says it. And I got mountains of documents here. I mean, mountains of them. One of these days I'm going to have a hell of a bonfire. It's going to burn probably for a week. But I don't have one right in front of me. But these copyright assignments, they'll blow your mind, because you're talking with blatantly says in there that you're the grantor, that you granted them through loan documents, and they're taking common law. They're taking all rights, title, interest to common law, copyright, trade names, instruments. I mean, it spells it right out, right there, what they're taken from you. And this is all rebuttable, obviously, because it's all administrative presumption. And that's the beauty of this. Once we've identified it, we can target them and just really just bring these sons of bitches down. And that's the excitement of where we're going with these things. But if you're still in the court, I would really, really strongly suggest, obviously, do everything you can to get out of court and get administrative processes going, and put your attention towards the things that we're talking about here this evening, as opposed to trying to track down all the assignments, or trying to track down your birth bond, or trying to go through the GMEI utility and say, oh my God, I got 5,000 accounts connected to me. Forget all that stuff. It's all worthless stuff. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't help you get anywhere with it. Focus where you're going to get a remedy from, and quit running around in circles, because that's all you're doing, and that's what they want you to do. They want this confusion. So get rid of the confusion and focus on the things that we're talking about here tonight, so you can gain understanding, and you can gain a foothold, and gain some strength and empowerment to go after these guys. Don't play their games anymore. You're done with it now.
Nice. Okay, questions out there for Ken Dost while we have him? You've been so generous tonight with your time, Ken, and sharing all of this incredibly valuable information. Cannot tell you how much we appreciate all of your efforts and everything that you've done and everything that you continue to do.
I'm just glad to get it out there. I'm glad to get it out there.
Well, it is stunning information. So, I'm sure that I know for me, I have to stop and really think about everything that you're saying, and because it's just
But you got to admit to yourself, you got a few aha moments where you just wake up at 3 a.m. or stop in a line somewhere and think, oh God, shit, I get it. And you get a lot of these aha moments.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I love those middle of the night moments when somehow there's some kind of clarity that comes, and you know that you're so close.
And that's kind of what happens. I mean, don't try so hard. I mean, don't get frustrated and don't try to force it, because that just will complicate it and frustrate you. Just take it in, and if you don't get it, don't force it. It will come to you. I promise you, it'll come to you, and it'll come to you in aha moments. You have all kinds of aha moments. You have all kinds of moments. Oh God, I get it now. I mean, those moments will come. I promise they will. But for some they'll come a lot easier than others. But don't try. Don't. This isn't a high school final that you have to cram for. It's just taking the information and taking it as best as you can, and just let your mind ponder over it and walk away from it, and you'll get it. You'll have all kinds of aha moments. I remember when this first started coming to me. I mean, it took a while. I mean, it took a while, and the good thing about it now is, I mean, I'm trying to cut down years of knowledge here, so that so I can convey it in a lot easier way, so everybody gets it in a month or two, or a couple months. But don't. It's a lot of information to take in, but don't fear the information. Just take it in, and you will have aha moments, and it will come to you. And when you really get it, believe me, you'll know you get it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Anyone else out there have any questions for Ken Dost?
If I may.
Go ahead, please.
I just
Did we lose him?
Did we lose you?
I guess my speakerphone's messing up. Probably the Fed's messing with me. Anyhow, I just wanted to thank you, Ken, very much for coming on here tonight and giving us your time and your wisdom and sharing with us and being patient with us as we try and absorb all of this and re-educate ourselves how to properly think and how to properly speak and how to reclaim what is rightfully ours.
Good. Well said. Well said. It's a deep programming. It really is. I mean, if you think about it, it's like you're deprogramming yourself.
I look at it like this because I worked with horses my whole life, and I look at it like this. It's like a horse that somebody got and they misunderstood that horse. They did not understand that horse. And so they taught that horse a bunch of bad habits. And now you have to, it's 10 times the work, because now you have to take and you have to untrain that horse and gain his trust. And after you get him to where you've untrained him and you've gained his trust, then you can start rebuilding him again.
Yes, that's a good way of looking at it. That's a very good way of looking at it. It's a good analogy. It's a real good analogy. Another thing we've got to do is we got to stop. We have to kind of curb our attitude towards the federal government, how we feel about them. I know that a lot of people can't stand the federal government, but really, it's really important to note here in your deprogram or you're turning the horse or untraining the horse is to kind of back down on the feds and realize that we do need the federal government and they are going to be our friends. So it is rewinding. It's really unwinding a lot of things. But yeah, that's a good analogy. That's a very good analogy.
Well, I can't swallow that at this point. I will ponder that idea, but I can't swallow that at this point because the federal government has allowed this to happen and partaken in this fraud.
But you got to remember remember states' rights. Remember what states' rights are. States are autonomous. States can function in the way that they want to, with federal oversight. The feds can't get involved and won't get involved until they have good cause to get involved. And if we're not going in proper standing or proper position, there's nothing they can do. And if you're railing against the federal government, obviously, what are they going to do? They're going to rail right back at you. So I realize that's a hard one to swallow. I get it. I get it because for a long time I hated the federal government too. But and that's a real hard one to swallow. But really ponder it. I mean,
here we get to the citizen issue, and if you go to Black's Law, first edition, citizen is slave subject to. That's what it means. And so, knowing that shuts the whole thing down for me.
But
so
look at 1790 copyright law. Look at the business dealing, which really it is, with Treasury and the federal government. They're the ones that give us our accounts. Number one, they're the ones that protect us. And why do they protect us? They protect us from the pirates out there who have taken all of our, who have taken trillions of dollars out of this country and have hidden it in tax shelters and foreign lands. And they've done it on our dime, obviously. And there's nothing to be done about that until we make the claim in Treasury and we put ourselves back on the land. And at that point in time, now we go to the IRS and we basically say, hey, I'm not the only one getting screwed here. Treasury's job is to go after all the debts that are owed the federal government. Well, what have you just shown now? Now what you've shown is you've shown that you've claimed your copyright. You took your claim to that portion of copyright and recognized the fact that it's a shared copyright essentially with Treasury, and that not only have you gotten injured, federal government's gotten injured now. So now they're going to go after the bad guys. So it's a business arrangement. Think of it that way.
Well, the way I see it is federal government is D.C., 10 square miles, ports, artilleries, armories, that type thing.
I get that. But
that's the only place they have the right to make any law for, to control or dictate anything, and that's it. Period.
Right. I get that, and I agree with you on that. But at the same time, though, they do extend the states' rights, and they can't thump the states. And the states need a good thump down. But the president can't do anything about the thump down until we put them in that position. So at that point in time, I want them to come out of their 10 square miles and come to Oregon and do some thumping here in Oregon, because that's what they need to do.
What I'm kind of picturing here is the way I have come to understand it, and the way you understand it, coming together and making, a picture, a full picture. That seems to be what is happening now, is that a lot of the old timers that have, spent a lot of time studying and researching, and have this piece of the puzzle, and another one over here has that piece, and another one over there has another piece, and they're all kind of coming together now to make a picture.
Well, I think what the old timers, to use your terms, what everybody missed, and really everybody did miss it, is that 1790 copyright. When I came across that, I've been doing this for over 10 years now, and I had all these patents. I had intellectual properties out there, but I mean, really to tie it all together, what tied it all together for me? I mean, really buttoned it up tight was when I came across the 1790 copyright, and that was only about a year ago. And when I saw that, it's like, oh shit. I mean, everything fell into place. That's when I started. That's when I totally turned my views around about the federal government and the old timers' viewpoints. And as a matter of fact, what it did, it's directly opposite from the old timers' viewpoints. I mean, that 1790 copyright is a huge, huge thing. It really turns the table on things tremendously.
Well, when I say old timers,
ponder that some and give that some consideration.
When I say old timers, I mean individuals like yourself or myself.
I'm not an old timer. I'm only 52.
Well, I'm younger than you, and I'm an old timer.
Oh,
I am wore out. So, if I'm an old timer, you have to be one of them old school too.
Yeah, but I didn't come. I was never into politics or anything when I was growing up. That was none of that stuff. I was not into the militia movement or constitutionalist movement or any of those things. I was referring to people in those camps that have missed the 1790 Copyright Act. So when you talk old timers, I kind of automatically gravitated towards them, which isn't really right either, because a lot of those guys in the list are 20s and 30s. So. I feel old.
Well, thank you again, Ken, and I'll be talking to you soon, I'm sure. I'm going to take some time and ponder this.
Very good, very good. Have a good evening pondering. Get ready for some ahas.
I pray so.
You will.
Thank you so much. Well, we have been going at it here for a good couple of hours. And if anyone else out there has anything else to add, now would be the time to do that, or more questions for Ken?
Yeah, I'll do about one or two more, because I'm looking at a bunch of chicken wings here that I want to eat.
Oh, yeah, you better go consume those. Well, I think it sounds like it's gotten pretty quiet here, so I'm going to go ahead and close it down for the evening. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on Exiting Babylon and Correcting Your Status with our special guest, Ken Dost, tonight, who has given us so much wonderful information and things to definitely look into and begin to apply to our everyday life. Thank you so much, Ken, for sharing and for joining us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Very welcome. And so with that, I'm going to do the countdown from 3, 2, 1. Good night, everybody.
Good night, all.
All right. No.
Good night.